Hi, I'm an 8 mana enchantment, but sometimes it's 6, 7 mana. Kira.
Hi, I'm a 1 mana blue instant that counters a 2 CMC spell. I'm Sam.
Hello.
Hi.
I am so excited to have you join me today. Today we have none other than Sam Loy, who is fresh off the back of ProTour Lorwyn Eclipsed.
Yeah, fresh enough, I would say.
Yeah, fresh enough.
Yeah.
It's still in recent enough history. The most recent ProTour.
Yeah, the most recent one. It's still the most recent set, which is crazy this year as well.
Yeah, well, welcome back. We're still defrosting you.
Yes.
From your trip to, where was it, Richmond?
Richmond, Virginia.
Boy. And it was cold.
It was very cold. So, unseasonable ice storm. That we, the first time I've actually been in Texas out of the airport and all the roads were covered in ice. And it was like -6 degrees on the way there. And then we got there and it was about the same temperature. They were slightly better prepared, but not that well prepared for the cold.
Not that well. Well, ProTour Lorwyn Eclipsed, this was your third ProTour.
It was, yeah.
And so how long between your second and third ProTours has it been?
Yeah, over a decade, I think. So the second one was Fate Reforged. So the second Dragons of Tarkir, Khans of Tarkir in the middle there, which was Washington, D.C. And I want to say it was 2015, something like that.
Wow.
So about 11 years, basically. It was about the same time of year. So, yeah, about 11 years.
Wow. What caused you, what got you to step away for a little bit?
Yeah, so I was taking Magic very seriously, competitively 11 years ago. I was in my mid-20s and it was sort of what I wanted to do. And I had all those grandiose ideas of being on the train and all those sort of things. And I didn't do very well. And I also managed to be so competitive that I ruined the experience for myself. So coming back from that, I played for about another year or so, but a little more casually as it went on. And decided that if I was going to enjoy Magic, which is something I've enjoyed for most of my life, I needed to step away for a while, particularly from competitive Magic. So I made it was sort of a tough call in a sense, but it was also an easy call because once I stopped playing for a while, I started enjoying other things a little bit more and hanging out with the friends I'd made through Magic in non-Magic settings and could just feel myself relaxing into it a little bit more. So the net result is that 5 or so years later, I started enjoying it a lot more. I got invited to be on the Arena beta, and that was sort of my start back in, but I was playing very casually for a long time, and we've been on a ramp back up ever since. And again, not taking it too seriously, just happening to spike events sometimes.
See, I love the vibe of not taking ProTour too seriously. Guys, relax.
Yeah. Well, I did surprise a lot of people in the room with that. I got a lot of comments about it. I think most of my opponents said something about it at the end of the match. They're like, I can't believe how relaxed you were. I can't believe this. A couple of people actually actively called me, you're very nice. And I'm like, no, I mean, this is a hobby. So I know it's important to you. And there were a lot of younger guys from America that I played against who were really happy to have a bit of banter, but I needed to introduce it. And I think they enjoyed it a lot more that way. Of course, they were all both beating me, these guys. So that also makes it more enjoyable.
But it kind of relieves the tension. ProTour is, aside from Worlds, the most competitive level of play that currently exists for Magic. And so to be able to kind of come into it kind of easy breezy, beautiful cover girl, just kind of guys, what are we taking this seriously for? Yeah,
I mean, it's inherently silly in a certain sense. Magic is meant to be fun. That's the reason I'm involved. I'm in it for the enjoyment of it. But I've got that perspective because of that earlier story, basically. So I didn't expect my opponents to be feeling the same way about it as I was, but it was a lot of fun to catch them off guard with. Yeah. I
have a feeling as well that people might have really enjoyed that. They're tensed up. They're really, really stressed. Every mulligan decision counts. Every, 1% decision counts. And they're just, that tension just kind of builds and builds and it makes you really tired as well.
Yeah.
And then you kind of breeze in, you just settle in and you're just like, guys, let's relax a little bit,
let's
okay?
Chill out. Let's chill out. Well, I think, it depends on who they were. That I got them all by the end of the match. But at the start of the match, some people are it does mean a lot to them. And I wanted to respect that. And despite me wanting to be relaxed about it, I still feel like there was a lot of, I don't know, a social pressure to play really tightly if I could. Make sure that everything is really well represented. all those sort of things, so that they could, actually sit there and not spend too much energy on me. So there was me playing technically at a high level, like trying to do that as best I could, and then also just making jokes the whole time. Yeah.
So you were pretty chilled going into this. How did you qualify for this event?
So I qualified from the standard RC in 2025 May. I think at Coburg Town Hall. You were on coverage for it, I believe.
It's true.
Yeah.
I'm acting like I don't.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, you interviewed me, I think, twice. It's kind of rude, really, when you think about it. No, so I top forward that one with Red Green Delirium.
Yeah.
And then there was only one more RC left in that year, I believe, which was in St Kilda, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, for
modern. But I deferred the invites, so that one I sort of just got to scoop to some friends and go.
And have fun.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. It was pretty fun. So, qualified from that one. Yeah.
Well, so not only at RC9 were you playing an interesting standard deck.
Yeah.
You also had a very interesting deck choice for this event. You were playing Simic Omniscience.
Yes.
Which has been kind of up and down in the metagame. It had, a resurgence for a bit. It really died down when Lessons kind of took over, and it seemed like it's kind of like, bubbling its way back up. How did you land on Omniscience for this event?
Yeah, so it was basically the print of Formidable Speaker that talked me into making it an option for myself. So I was sitting there without any of the station lands, no one to borrow them from. Those cards are a little bit expensive because they tend to be like a powerful land at home for Commander players, and they're cool cards, but they're not, generally speaking, constructed focus cards. So no one owned them. So I was like, okay, I've worked out that I want to play Formidable Speaker. I think at this point that I'm going to play it in the Bring It a Last Gift Sultai Reanimator deck list. But I also wanted to cultivate another option because getting cards on the ground in Richmond was going to be absolutely impossible. There was no stores in the area. We had no vendors at the site. And it wasn't until the last week that we had an announcement that Star City Games was going to fulfill a bunch of orders and bring them over if they could. Which at that point, that's too late for me. I like to be prepared well in advance of that.
Yep.
So I knew I liked Formidable Speaker. I knew that card was great. I also knew Elementals were great, but I thought that if I had a Duke to that, which put me more in a combo lane, that would be able to cover both bases depending on how the meta moved during the time that we were overseas already.
That's incredible. I loved your list as well because of the inclusion of one specific card.
Okay.
And it's the single copy of Terror of the Peaks.
You like the Terror.
I love it. And I especially love it because it is otherwise completely uncastable in your deck. Except for Cavern of Souls.
Yeah, you could name 2 Cavern of Souls on Dragon.
You can name 2 Cavern of Souls on Dragon, or alternatively, you get your Omniscience into play, which is the tempo of the deck, and it's what it's trying to do. But why? Because I had played a version of this deck that didn't include Terror of the Peaks, and you asked me the very good question of, so how exactly does it win then? Other than, I guess, looping Meringue River Regent for a little bit to bounce their entire board.
Yeah.
So how did that make its way in for you?
Yeah, so my feeling was that in the format that you kind of actually just needed to kill people that turn. A lot of the decks were really powerful. Badgermore Cub decks were one of the bad guys going into that weekend. And even if you bounce their whole board, depending on how they're developed, they can make, 12 mana the next turn if they have enough lands in play and the right sequence of cards in hand. And not to mention that Meringue River Regent says non-land permanent on it, so you can't bounce the Earthbent lands. So Badger Moles turn into a lot of mana very quickly then.
Yep.
So my feeling was that between that, the big unknown of all the decks that, it's a Pro Tour for, I think, a relatively powerful set. So there was a good chance there were decks that we just didn't know about. And, things like Reanimator and the rest of it, just being able to kill them on the spot was sort of the lane I wanted to be in. Yeah.
It's a good line. Like, Terra is very good at doing that. You can just kind of boop, 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 turn your dragons over and over until you kill them.
Yeah. And it's because it's shooterable with Formidable Speaker as well. The amount of combo potential added to the deck with Formidable Speaker is a significant difference to how the deck played before. That was the other reason I really liked that deck. It didn't come up on coverage, and the people on coverage, so sorry guys, but I think that they missed from the RC to the Pro Tour over those 2 weeks, that there's actually a new combo line with Formidable Speaker, and it's a lot more reliable than the old one. So that level of consistency, being able to find your kill condition off your combo card, being able to find the loop off the combo card as well, and it's all just Formidable Speaker, just makes it like incredibly strong and consistent once you've got the Omniscience in play, which is what it was missing before.
So it's funny you mentioned coverage because you were on coverage. You had a feature match.
Yeah, it was great.
How did you, it was so good. I got spoiled and spoiler to everyone home, I got spoiled that you won your feature match.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting down and watching game 1. You won game 1 in less than 5 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
And you were playing against Lessons, which one of the more popular decks in the standard format at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a good or bad matchup for you overall?
So I felt that particular build of Lessons is incredibly good. So that particular build that I was playing against there was playing, I think, 3 main deck Quench, but also 3 main deck 3 steps ahead.
Yes.
So quite counter heavy, but I was also playing 4 Cavern Assault.
Yeah.
Which, having spoken to my opponent after the match, he was like, I can't believe you played 4 Cavern. I've only ever seen 2. And I was like, well, why wouldn't you play 4 Cavern? It's legal.
Yeah.
This card's... have you not read Cavern of
This card
Souls?
is busted.
It's so busted. Just play 4. So yeah, I thought I was good going into that. The other Lessons decks, I think that it's also still pretty good as a matchup. They've only really got 4 cards that kill a Kona at instant speed, and those 4 cards are Combustion Techniques, and you can spell snare all of them, as well as do the Lost in the Maze interaction of developing a Lost in the Maze, playing your Kona, and then tapping it immediately. So you've actually got relatively good protection against that deck between the Cavern of Souls and that. And usually that means that you can just combo off it into them at most early stages of the game. The one weakness is that if they establish something like Artist Talent and Monument, they can probably grind you out from there if you don't find a win straight away.
It's a really intense combination, and especially with the Grand. Like the Lessons deck is pretty resilient, and they're going... It's funny how much they're going to kill you with a 1-2.
Yeah.
Like they really are just going to turn that little old woman sideways.
Yep.
And they're going to kill you with Monument triggers, which puts you in the position of having to kind of develop and out-tempo them in a way as well.
Yeah.
Which is not always something a combo deck really wants to be doing.
Yeah, so they're more control combo, so they're going to have to stop you first, which is nice. That's a nice place to be. That gives you a lot more turns than you normally would have, because they're not really going to tap out for a Monument on 3 unless they have no other options. But yeah, I mean, if they develop all their stuff, they're just going to grind you down. That deck is very, very good. And I'm still mad at Gran. She's a lovely old woman, but Gran.
The senior discount is real.
It's incredible. I don't know what they were thinking.
But in your game 3 on coverage, you end up with a Terror in hand, and you end up in this spot where you don't have Kona, you don't have Omniscience yet, and you've got this Terror of the Peaks. And I remember listening to coverage, just talking. Never going to be able to cast this. You don't want this in your hand. This is going to be terrible. And then 2 turns in a row, you rip 2 Cavern of Souls off the top.
Yep.
And the great thing about in your deck is Cavern of Souls Naming Dragon also casts Meringue River Regent.
Yes. Yeah.
But it also casts your uncastable Terror of the Peaks.
Yeah. So the previous turn to drawing the second, well, it's the 3rd Cavern for the game, actually. Because the first one was naming very specifically Druid, which was a bit of a troll to the coverage crew, because they had all these nice little nameplates for all those things, and because of Eclipse Realm Unlimited, they had heaps of them with Elf on it. So I suggested that it should be named Druid instead.
So you should, just the little bit of silliness, the little bit of fun.
Yeah, I thought it was funny, and the guy started walking away. He's like, Druid, and then he turned back and he was like, seriously? And I'm like, I think I've declared it now, so actually I can't change it, but yeah.
I feel like I overheard like the table mic where it's like, do you want Elf?
I'm like, I was took, so I had a secret feature, like a backup feature the round before.
Oh, wow.
And in the interim there, I'd been chatting to the coverage crew and joking around with them. So yeah, I maybe, threw them under the bus a little bit there, but I thought it was funny. But yeah, so 1 on Druid, and then 1 on Dragon, cast Meringue River Regent. I have nothing going on. I've drawn 1 billion lands this game. The sort of value judgment there is between casting Coil and Catch, which is the Omen side of Meringue River Regent, and playing just the Regent out. I thought that he might counter the Coil and Catch, because that's not uncounterable off a Cavern of Souls.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, 6/7's good. Maybe he doesn't have it, or have it yet, and this is going to provide some pressure and force him to sort of sculpt his hand into interaction, which may give me a lot more turns to get out of this. So I didn't think it was going to go end to end, to be honest with you, but I thought that developing it would actually be a more effective strategy than give me more draw steps than trying to resolve a coil and catch into a 3 steps ahead. So I did that. Terror Peaks in hand. I'm like, oh, I'm never going to cast this. I agree with coverage at this point. I'm like, okay, well, this is dead, but, you know, it's one of the pieces, I guess. If I draw, like, I don't know, something, I can maybe resolve this. And then, yeah, draw another land off the top. Thought I was dead, and then I realized it was another cavern.
And you're like, oh.
Dragon.
We're so back.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, sometimes all you need to do is cast dragons.
Yeah, top decking is a skill.
It is
that
a skill.
You've mastered.
It is a skill. And like when your combo deck falls apart, if you just cast a bunch of dragons,
turns out you're fine.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
When you have a 6/7 dragon, and a Terra's a 4/5 dragon.
It's a 5/4.
Yeah. Other way around 5/4, and they've got a 1/2 old lady.
Yeah,
you're feeling pretty good in that position.
Yeah, they're a little bit bigger than Grand. Yeah, just a touch.
Just a little bit. Well, it was a really impressive feature match. As someone who's never been on coverage, never been on feature, what's that like, kind of being in that seat?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I have spent a lot more time on camera than most people doing coverage myself. So we do coverage at, MTG Bazaar. And I think that I don't think about it very similarly to other people. I've noticed other people get a little bit more tense and they tense up or whatever because there's a camera on them. But I'm used to being a buffoon in front of thousands of people, so it's not new to me. And I think that it is a little interesting how everyone else reacts to me, because to me it's sort of, I don't know, it's not as unique. I can just say, I know that's a terrible answer to the question, but I try and, I think what I would recommend people do is try and treat it like it's the same as any other match.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like I'm fairly close to doing that at this point.
Yeah.
And the nerves and stuff like that I would have gotten 10 years ago, let's say, had that happened in my early days of being on the Pro Tour, I would have been very stressed and very tensed up. But at some point, you spend enough time in front of cameras and you just don't worry about it anymore.
You just entered like the Zen space.
Yeah.
You start imagining judges in their underwear.
Yeah, look, in a previous life, I was a lecturer and tutor at uni, and it's just sort of, you do that and you have to be technically correct the entire time or whatever. So what's a game of Magic compared to those things when they're recorded and, they affect your future employment prospects. So, it's low stakes in some ways.
In some ways.
Yeah.
So how was the rest of your event?
Oh, the wheels completely fell off after that. I had a really great round 7 match. So the feature was round 6. Round 7, I played against a control player, lovely dude from England. And it was a tough match, and he snuck it out in the end. And I guarantee you I made like 4 or 5 major mistakes during that. But we played all 3 games and got right to the end of the clock, and very interactive, fun, engaging Magic, that one. And then after that, I basically just drew 12 to 14 lands every game for the event.
That's not really where your deck wants to be. Yeah,
so it was one more constructed. So I lost to my best possible matchup, which is, a thing that can happen. The guy I played against again was lovely. He's from Montreal. And then 3 limited rounds again in the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
My deck was horrendous. I was trying to I saw my seat was awful, which can happen in this draft format, but Law and Eclipse, that is. Your seat can be awful, but generally speaking, you can sneak a 1/2 out of it, or maybe a 2/1 if you get a cup. It's the higher end of an awful seat.
Yeah.
So I was trying to get 1 win out of that, and then I think that I had 2 matches in that draft that I could have got that in. Funnily enough, it was the first and the second, not the last one. Because the guy who ended up in the last one, I was talking to him, and he got quite unlucky in his previous game, so he had quite a good deck. But yeah, no, I just drew 14 lands, 12 lands, these sort of things, and there was nothing to do with the level of power in my deck, so that sucked. But again, people were nice, especially when they're beating you. And then a couple more rounds of constructed until I was dead. But after it was really boring. I had to say, I was trying to have fun and trying to enjoy it, but I think that when you don't feel like you're actually having much impact on the game, it's sort of a mental challenge. Like, you really want to stay in the zone, particularly at a Pro Tour or something like that. You can't just be like, the event's done, fuck it. But it was quite boring. Yeah, it was quite boring.
You just kind of like dovetail out and you're like, all right, guys, I'm so chilled out.
Yeah.
I'm backing away.
And yeah, look, I mean, I really want to, at some point, I just admitted to myself that I really wanted to die in the tournament so I could go do something more fun.
You're like, guys, I hear they have Mystery Booster 2 draft happening.
Yeah,
I think
I actually wanted to go walk and see some sights in Richmond.
Yeah.
So I went, the unusual thing that I dropped and then went to the Confederate White House. It was my line, which is normally dropped for the pub. But this time, see Confederate White House was the line.
Like, I need to see what they're doing over here.
Yeah, it was just a really big White House. Yeah, yeah. They wouldn't let me in, so too much of a bogan, I think they said. Yeah.
Well, so you had this really big break between your second and third PTs. What does your competitive journey look like now? What's kind of on the horizon? What's coming up next for you?
So I'm somewhat interested in going to another one of these because I actually had a really good time this time. It's like one of the reasons the last one kind of killed me off it was I had an awful time and I didn't want to go into a PT again. Now I had a lot of fun on this one. The guys on the trip were great. I really enjoyed it. So I always play every RC anyway because I like that competitive environment. But generally I prefer to test standard for people who are going that aren't me. So I'll either make it or some friends will make it is almost better because it's cheaper as well. But then play a bunch of standard and work out decks and, go back into the problem solving of Magic.
Do you think you're going to play any of the modern events?
I mean, look, if it's a big event, I will probably just go for the vibes. I'm not super into modern as a format. It's not really my thing, but I'll give it a go. I'll give it a crack.
Give it a go. So we'll see you at Spotlight Brisbane.
Yeah, probably most likely.
Most likely.
Yeah, I mean, unless something comes up, I would just go to that anyway. It doesn't matter what the format is. I'd play Pauper. I'd even play Pioneer.
the format formerly known as Pioneer.
Yeah, I don't think that's a thing anymore, which I'm sort of glad about. But yeah, I'll play anything. If it's a big enough event, I'll play anything. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to see you on Feature Match coming up to our competitive events here. So I'll be seeing you at RC11 in Sydney then for sure.
Yes. Flights booked.
Yay.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be really fun then. I'm looking forward to seeing you there. I'm looking forward to see what kind of deck you pull out.
Yeah, we'll see. It could be a normal one. Who knows? I could surprise everyone and play something normal.
It could be on meta. It could be off meta. Either way, you're going to be chilling.
Yeah, I'll be having fun.
Thank you all so much for joining us today. And thank you, Sam, for giving us your time. We're always so excited to have competitive Magic players on the podcast.
No, thanks for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Amazing. Well, thank you guys at home as well. A reminder that Raise the Standard is now sponsored by MTG Bazaar. And we've got some really incredible events coming up. Sam, why don't you tell me what's on the horizon?
Yeah, so we have Highlander Worlds coming up very soon in April at Coburg Town Hall. Please check us out at mtgbazaarevents.com. We've got 3 days of exciting events. Friday night, Saturday is individuals for Highlander Worlds, and then Sunday is teams. So get your 2 dumbest buddies together. Come join us for a lot of fun there.
And with all that said, that's all we have for you today. New episodes release on Mondays at 11 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. You can keep track of all of our releases at RaiseMTG on both Instagram and Blue Sky. A huge thank you to the Hen House Recording Studio for the ongoing use of their space, and a huge thank you to MTG Bazaar for sponsoring us. We'll see you next week.